Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my top 10 locations in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is the final countdown for the Legend of Zelda countdowns we've been doing because this Friday it is finally here. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, is coming out in just a few days, and I am super hyped. So, as our last celebration to lead into that, we are doing my top 10 favorite locations. We did a top 30 with songs, we did a top 20 with characters, and now we're doing a top 10 with locations. These are my favorite places in all of Breath of the Wild, and you may be wondering, why is the screen set up like this? Like, why am I over here, and then over there there's the rainbow and shit? Well, that's because instead of redirecting it all, we're not just going to be showing these locations off as they appear in the game. We are going to be just talking about them this time. We're going to be actually giving... I'm going to be giving you some actual reasons for it. Because unlike with characters or songs, it's not going to be as repetitive, because this time I can actually talk more about the depths and the specifics with something like locations. So... we're going to be going into detail about all of my choices from 10 to 1, and I'm going to be showing you two pictures for each to kind of get a good view of the locations themselves. Now, there's a lot of places. The map is pretty big in Breath of the Wild, so these will just be my choices, and a lot of these places will probably return in Tears of the Kingdom. But I'm going to tell you why they're my favorites and why I think that they really stand out. And remember, this is only for Breath of the Wild. So locations from previous games will not be counted. This is only for Breath of the Wild specifically to lead into Tears of the Kingdom. So, let us begin with, if I can get up the right thing here. There we go. Number 10 is Rito Village. This is found on the west side of the map. And Rito Village is just automatically... it stands out in terms of design. Like, you look at its design from the outside, you see how the village spirals around this rock and everything going up, but also you see that the rock itself is a roost for the divine beast that's flying around. The village has its own shrine connected to it, like most notable locations in the game do. But when you look on the inside of it... and I have to increase this, sorry. This is the only smaller picture in of all the ones I got. But you can see the little houses and everything that line it and everything, the wooden platforms. It's really unique. It's really unique and creative in terms of its ingenuity and design. Not to mention, just every point of it gives you a good view of all of the surrounding area in the region. It breeds like the perfect location for the bird race of the Rito. It's so wonderful. It's absolutely great, and I love it. But number 9 is the Typhlo Ruins. So when you come up to the Typhlo Ruins, just while maybe searching through the map and all, you'll notice this forest surrounded in like this cloud of darkness. And when you go in, it's very dark. The only light you have is fire to guide you. You have to go through the Typhlo Ruins in almost complete darkness. There is a Hinox in there, there are multiple enemies, and a shrine quest in order to, get another spirit orb. It's very unique and very impressive compared to a lot of the other shrine quests in the game, because it stands out. Like, the instant you find the Typhlo Ruins from the outside, it's like you can tell this is something interesting. And once you actually go in and start, like, going through, it's like, oh, this is fun. This is a completely different experience. But it keeps you on your toes because of the darkness. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to run into, and you're going to get maybe a little lost at times. A little bit turned around. Using a torch for fire and other stuff, you can light some other torches around but it's still very dark at all times. And it's just super interesting because of that. It's super unique. It's just a really great little shrine quest within the game. But number 8 is the Spring of Wisdom. Out of all of the springs in Breath of the Wild, the Spring of Wisdom is my favorite. Because look at its design. The Spring of Wisdom is on Mount Lanayru, and it's just gorgeous. Like, look at these ice crystals and stuff. Look at how just everything is designed and how it looks like it's in ruins, but also it looks like it's purposefully meant to look like that. It's so beautiful. It's gorgeous. But the first time you come upon it, not so much, because the spring is inhabited by the corrupted dragon, Nadra. Nadra is one of the 3 dragons in the game that you can get scales and all from. They're completely docile, they just fly around for the most part. But when you first come upon the Spring of Wisdom, you see that Nadra is corrupted by the blight from Calamity Ganon. So you have to free him, you have to destroy the blight covering him, and save him before you can access the Spring of Wisdom and everything. You get one of Nadra's scales by doing so, you offer that to the spring, and it gives you a shrine. It's just a really cool side quest, plus the fact that it's at the top of Mount Lanayru is just really great in and of itself. And yeah, it's beautiful when it's, freed of all of that. But it also leads to one of the most shocking moments of the game, honestly. Especially if you haven't encountered any dragons before that, just encountering your first dragon this way is just super cool. But number 7 is Gerudo Town. Gerudo Town always had to be on here. It's just such a great design. It's this desert town that is exclusive to women because the Gerudo tribe are entirely women. It's excessively rare for a man to be born in the Gerudo tribe, and let's be honest, almost every time one is born into the Gerudo tribe, it's usually Ganondorf. So it's like not really a good sign. So they have this strict policy that men are not allowed in. Like, men can do trade and stuff outside the gates, and Gerudo women will leave the town to go and get married and have kids and stuff, but only women are actually allowed to enter the town. And it's very strict about that. But it's a very beautiful desert inspired location. It has a lot of great decor, a lot of great building design. And no matter whether you're there at night or during the day, it looks really cool. It's just a really cool design. Plus, it leads to some really fun side quests, such as medicinal Moduga, as well as the ice house and everything. There's a lot of fun stuff there, a lot of great vendors that you can get stuff from. It's a place you just really enjoy visiting, or at least I really enjoy visiting. Number 6, though, is the Kara Kara Bazaar, not too far away from Gerudo Town. They're linked by a short road between them. The Kara Kara Bazaar is this small outpost, this small oasis in the desert that is just absolutely beautiful. Like, look at this. This is absolute gorgeous splendor. It is basically the pure epitome of what a desert oasis should look like. You have the palm trees, you have the little spring, you have the town itself, the people within. You can go in and there are vendors in there who will sell you stuff like hydromelons, but you can also find a certain woman on top of the bazaar's main building, the inn there. And this woman will give you a pair of Gerudo clothing, or a set of Gerudo clothing, that will help you get into Gerudo Town by posing as a woman yourself. And it's just a really great moment in the in the game, because not only does it involve Link dressing in drag to get into Gerudo Town, which is fabulous as it is, but you also meet a basically canonically trans character. The woman who gives it to you is a trans woman um, who gets very angry if you accuse her of being a man and everything. It's very clear she sees herself as a woman. Um, and honestly, she's beautiful. And hey, she works that clothing extremely well. She works the Gerudo set very well. So just all the love to her. All just straight up all the love to her. And it definitely it's not the only reason. Obviously, I love Car Bazaar. I love its layout. I love just the appearance of it, the aesthetic. It's just really great. Overall, it's just a fantastic location that I just enjoy going to time and time again. So next we get to number 5 with Hateno Village, or as I just call it, home. Because Hateno Village is basically your home base in this game. You go to a lot of other villages, such as Kakariko Village, but none of them feel like a home to you. And Hateno Village is especially notable in that regard because you can actually buy a home there. You can actually buy your own house in Hateno Village. You can have it furnished, and you don't really do much there. But you have your own home. It makes it feel like your base of operations. It makes it feel like it's your hometown in a way that Kakariko Village just never feels like, or any of the other villages around the map. They're all great villages, and it's great to see the difference in how they're set up, the differences in location, the differences in architecture and everything. But Hateno, it just feels so homely. The people in it, the shops, you have the ancient tech lab with Pura, who is amazing. We love Pura. It's so good. And it just has this like great design to it. Like the building design, the village, the way everything is laid out. You have the lanterns around that you can light with the blue flame. It's a beautiful village that I consider my home in the game. And yeah, I think I probably will in Tears of the Kingdom as well. But now we get into number 4, the Great Hyrule Forest. And I'm counting the entire thing, not just one part of it. The Great Hyrule Forest includes 2 notable portions: the Lost Woods and Korok Forest. Both of them make up the entirety of the Great Hyrule Forest. I'm counting it as a whole, so I'm counting both aspects of that. The Lost Woods are great because it's this fog-covered wood that you can get lost in. If you get trapped in the fog, it will teleport you back to the beginning. It's a great puzzle situation and causes you to really take care while trying to move through. You go through it at multiple points to get to different shrines, and it's wonderful. But the Korok Forest is the true highlight here. It's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. It has the Deku Tree, and it's where you get the Master Sword. The Sword of Evil's Bane, the sword that seals the darkness. It is the premier weapon of this franchise. And so it just makes sense that you get it in front of the Great Deku Tree. And it's just a wonderful location. Plus, this is a great location to find Hestu, where you can exchange your Korok seeds for more weapon slots and whatnot. There is the Korok Trials, which leads you to 3 different shrines. Not to mention there's also a shrine like right there as well. And it also leads to a memory or 2 that are really powerful and impactful. The memory of Zelda putting the sword in the pedestal after Link was put into the hibernation is wonderful. Absolutely. Also, there are shops there. Some of the Koroks will sell you some stuff like mushrooms and all. And sorry for the noises in the background. The neighbor is doing some yard work. It's just a wonderful place that it's another location I love visiting again and again. But now we get into the top three. My three favorite locations in the entirety of the game. Number three is the Great Plateau. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional over this. This is where it all begins. The Shrine of Resurrection that you start the game in is on the Great Plateau. You get all of your main runes from the Great Plateau. The entire story, your first like spoken word cutscene, where you actually get to hear the voices of characters outside of just hearing Zelda's voice call for you, is in the Great Plateau. The Great Plateau teaches you everything. It is the perfect introductory section for this game. It teaches you everything you need to know without necessarily holding your hand. It feels like you're actually exploring, like you're actually figuring things out. The only things that you could consider maybe a little handholdy are just the tutorial parts of the shrines, giving you each of the runes, getting the stasis rune, the bomb rune, and the magnesis rune. It's like that's the only part that feels maybe a little handholdy, but it's not even that bad. It's really not. The Great Plateau is just gorgeous too. Like obviously it's risen up from the entire rest of Hyrule, which is really interesting too, like geographically and all. Plus, it has the Temple of Time, one of the most well-known locations in all of Legend of Zelda in it. And considering the last big main series game prior to this was Skyward Sword, and the Temple of Time was a notable location in this, it makes you wonder. Skyward Sword was the first game in the timeline. Breath of the Wild at its release was the last game on the timeline. What happened to this location? Because it's very different than it looked like in Skyward Sword. Very different. The entire geography of the land is different. And obviously we know it's been hundreds of thousands of years, maybe even longer. But yeah, it's so different. But the Temple of Time looks kind of similar. And it's really interesting because there's also a lot more you have to think about too. Because in Ocarina of Time, the Temple of Time was right by Castletown and all. In fact, I think it was in Castletown. So it's like there's a lot that has changed over the timeline, and that's really interesting. And just all of that combined with everything else makes the Great Plateau just so much more interesting to me. Plus, again, it's just a beautiful location. But number two, my runner-up for my favorite locations in Breath of the Wild is Zora's Domain. I make it no secret how much I love the Zora characters, the champions, Mipha and Sidon. I make no secret of that. Obviously, they were almost at the top of my list for the characters, for my top 20 favorite characters from the entire franchise. But even just beyond that, look at this place. Look how absolutely gorgeous, how stunning Zora's Domain is in this game. Zora's Domain has been in a bunch of the different games, and you've seen different variations of it. None of them have looked as good as this. None of them have looked anywhere near as good as this. It is so beautiful. The blue colors, the silver lighting of it all. It's the architecture is so pretty. You get the closer up view here. You see the statue of Mipha. You see how the architecture is built, how it flows like water into itself. It's like that's such a perfect idea. Having the architecture itself feel like it's flowing like water. Look at these pillars back here. In the back behind Mipha's statue, you see these two pillars. They look like water. They look like water flowing downward. Isn't that just brilliant? That's just so cool. It's so beautiful. Um, the first time I saw it after Breath of the Wild came out, I was stunned. Like, this is Zora's domain. This is what Zora's domain has always meant to be. This is like thinking back to Zora's domain and like Ocarina of Time and whatnot. It's like it never looked this good. It never looked this impressive. This is just something special in terms of design. But there is one better. There is one location that is just meaningful, emotional, and perfect, in my opinion, in Breath of the Wild. It is a location that has significance to quest lines within the game. It makes you care about its residents greatly. And the side quest that it basically is all centered around is my favorite in probably all of Legend of Zelda. And that might seem weird to some people, but Terrytown is that damn good. Terrytown is impressive. It is. If Hateno Village is home, Terrytown is where I feel the soul of this game resides. Because, let me explain this. Breath of the Wild takes place after a massive, massive calamity. All of Hyrule was destroyed, most of its residents were killed, and those who remain are on the fringes of these small villages just scattered throughout the land. Most of the land is inhabited by monsters. So, what do you get in the midst of all of that destruction, of all that calamity? You get hope. You get love. You get joy. See, after you buy your house in Hateno and get it all upgraded and everything, one of the workers there, Hudson, is sent off to the Akala region. You don't know why, but once you find him on this small plateau in the Akala region, he says that he's going to build a town there, that he needs your help, and so you get him wood, and so he starts building the town. But then he asks you to start getting some residents to help him. He asks you to find this Goron, the Goron who could help him break up these heavy rocks and everything. He asks you to get a Zora, Zora comes later. He asks you to get all these different races, all these different races, a Zora, a Rito, a Gerudo, for all these different purposes in order to build up this town. And as you go along, as you get all of these different citizens, as you get all of the wood that's needed to build the town and the houses within, you start to see these characters' stories build. And at the end, you find out that Hudson, who had started this all, who had started to build this and envision this town, he falls in love. He falls in love with the Gerudo you get, Ronson. And they get married. I'm getting emotional because weddings always make me cry. I love love. I make no secret how much love matters to me as a person. And so this is my favorite side quest. Probably my favorite quest in not only Breath of the Wild, but Legend of Zelda, period. It's meaningful and impactful to me. You get to meet all these wonderful characters who you just fall in love with. And you get to see two of them fall in love with each other. And knowing that the Gerudo women's entire dream of finding their husbands and everything after living their lives in a town of only women and all. Um, Not counting any who might be, gay and everything. Um, it's also really meaningful to the lore of these characters. You get to meet all these other characters, all the other all the other residents who all of them have names that end in son because it's part of the Bolson Construction Company charter and everything, which is silly, but it's also charming. Um, you get to help plan out this wedding. You get to actually see the ceremony, and it just endears you so much. And to see this town come up from nothing, to see this town be built, and for you to have an active role in that, to see these citizens come here and find a home, to see two people fall in love and get married during the midst of the aftermath of a horrific calamity that caused absolute destruction, pain, and death. It is one of the most hopeful and beautiful things possible in this game. And that's why it's my favorite location in Breath of the Wild. And I'm sorry that I'm tearing up like a big baby bitch right now. But it's that meaningful to me. Like I've seen multiple Let's Plays of this game. I've been playing it myself in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom lately. Um, and every time I get to Terrytown and every time I get to the wedding, I cry. I cry because it's just so beautiful. It's what it means. It's what it stands for. To find hope and to find love in the midst of a terrible situation it's a miracle. It's beautiful. It's perfection. And it's so meaningful for the lore of this game, for the experience, for the investment in the characters. And it's a side quest you don't even need to do. My sister never did this. She played over 400 hours and never discovered Hudson at that plateau to create Terrytown. She never did this. And that is wild to me. I've played 45 hours I think at this point, and it's like it's one of the first things I went to do after I got my house done, of course. But of course I knew about it too at that point. To be fair, because I had already seen Let's Plays of the game and everything. So, but it's like it's just like after you get your house and after Hudson leaves, it's like you're just innately curious. I feel, at least I was. It's just so good. It's my favorite location in the entirety of Legend of Zelda, probably. And because of how invested and personal it is to you as a player, how much time and effort you put into it. So, yeah. And that leads us into Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom comes out this Friday, and I am excited. I am excited to see all these locations return, to see more new locations pop up, especially with what looks to be the Sky Islands that are coming up, and how things are going to change when compared to Breath of the Wild. I'm very excited to discover new things, because it's pretty clear that Tears of the Kingdom is taking place at least a few years after the events of Breath of the Wild, based on the fact that Lady Riju looks older in the trailer, notably older. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is going to be a fantastic game to rediscover this iteration of Hyrule through, and to see all the new stuff that's integrated in. It's going to be absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to experience it as it comes out. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Tell me in the comments below, what are some of your favorite locations in Breath of the Wild? And hell, tell me what are some of your favorite locations in all of Legend of Zelda. Let me know down below, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.